Welcome to tonight's Christmas Eve live stream. I'm going to get started in a minute. I just need to promote the live stream to the audience. Okay, I have gone out here and promoted the stream, so we're going to get started in a minute. Now, tonight's show is going to be very different from my other shows. Usually, I start out with a topic, but tonight I'm going to do things a little bit easier because it's Christmas Eve. And because it's Christmas Eve, I'm going to really just simply talk about some progress as related to some projects. Then I'm going to go into several topics that I really want to talk about. Now, when it comes down to the progress of several SJS Direct projects for 2022, uh, a lot of books are currently written and edited and laid out. So the 2022 catalog is basically all put together, and I'm just waiting on Bill Rocco to do the covers for two of the titles, and they'll be ready to go. And I already have the art from Mike Williams for John Haynes at Death's Door's paperback. And so that book is practically ready to go. Now, as I've been working on the 2022 books, I have also been working on a comic, and that comic is an adaptation of John Haynes at Death's Door. And I've been working on laying out the Kickstarter for that project. So that's another big project I'm hoping to have out in 2022. And I'm hoping to have that ready because the artist Antonio Balderi, he's only got 6 more pages and a cover to go, and the project will be finished. And from there, I can launch the Kickstarter and then just basically have that project ready to go. So I have projects already ready to go for 2022. And I'm hoping you guys head over to Amazon when I launch those books and bring them to the marketplace. Now, I've got some other books I'm working on for 2023, and those are books that are currently, I've got the John Haynes book already finished, and I'm working on another John Haynes book as well. So I'm working currently on 2023 books and 2022 books, and well, the 2022 books are finished. So I've got a lot of stuff ready to go, and I can't wait to share it with you. Now, with all of those projects taken care of, what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to rally for some Christmas sales on the books on the 2021 catalog. And I'm trying to get more people to pick up some books on the SJS Direct imprint because right now sales are kind of slow, and I want to try to rebuild that momentum where it was back last year. I really want to get back to that point I was this year where I had the month with 100 book sales, and I can only do that with your ongoing support. So I'm asking everybody to head over to Amazon and to pick up John Haynes Taking Care of Business, East Team Cancel Vacation, ISIS Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, and Stop Simping in Cyberspace. All these books are available in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com. And these are books that I wrote for this year, and a lot of them will be. I'm working on more books for next year, so that's going to segue into one of tonight's topics, and that is us going out here and investing in ourselves. Thank you, Soul Survivor, for the super chat. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everyone. Happy holidays to you and Merry Christmas to you. I'm going to get into one of tonight's topics, and one of tonight's topics is us investing in ourselves. Now, a lot of black folks, we go out here and we spend lots of money at Christmas time, but we really don't think about spending money with black-owned businesses. And the greatest gift we can give to ourselves is to go out here and spend at black-owned businesses like my SJS Direct Denver, because every dollar you spend with a black-owned business allows that black business owner to reinvest in the community, and it also allows them to go out here and keep dollars inside of your black community. So every dollar you spend in the black community is a gift that you give to your community. And with over $3.3 trillion in spending power in cash and credit, we need to start taking efforts to really go out here and make that investment in ourselves, because every dollar, again, that we spend in our community, we keep in our community, keeps those dollars flowing in our community to where they can go out here and enrich others. Now, that was one of the topics I wanted to talk about because it's a very important one that people don't really focus on. And during the Christmas holiday season, we'll spend lots of money on other businesses, but we don't invest in ourselves. And again, that's the greatest gift we can give ourselves is investment in ourselves and investment in our own community. Now, I got some of those talking points from YouTubers like Mad Voodoo Man and the late David Carroll, and this segues into another topic that I found to be quite troubling. Now, the late David Carroll, I heard about him passing away earlier this week, and I did a tribute live stream to David Carroll because he was a man I had great respect for, and I just came out of a live stream where Brian Solange and Queasy 100 were talking about the late David Carroll, and I was troubled to find that people were going out here denigrating Mr. Carroll's name. Now, whether you didn't agree with Mr. Carroll's opinions and you had issues with whatever he said, I believe that you just should have at least a little respect for this man as related to his passing and related to his family. I mean, I've heard that people have been saying some really derogatory things about him, and that's just, I feel, really hitting below the belt as related to things. But this is sadly par for the course when it comes down to many black folks, because we've seen this done with your Kobe Bryant when he passed away. We saw many of these um, feminists and many of these black feminists and many of these other people who have issues with heterosexual black men go out here and attack Kobe Bryant, and they're doing the same thing to David Carroll. And again, it's a really low blow to go out here and attack a man when he's passed away because that man can't defend himself. And that truly is a coward out here. That's something that's really cowardly, and it's not something a man of character or a woman of character goes out here and does. And that's something I had a real issue with when I heard about this, and I just wanted to address it because it's just completely out of line. I mean, if you have an issue with the man, express your grievances in a constructive manner, but don't take a low blow like that. Forrest McLeod asked a question: when I have my comics adapted to film, will I be making cameos? If the studio allows me, yeah, I would make cameos the way Stan Lee made cameos in MCU films if they were ever to make my properties into films. But it would take a long process for that to happen. So if I ever got an offer, I would probably insist to get a cameo in the project. But I don't know how many people would recognize me on camera for any sort of project. I mean, outside of YouTube, not that many people. Well, people have seen me on the street and they have met me on the street and have recognized me. Um, that's something that I would love to do if I got the chance. And if I did it, I would definitely do a cameo in it. Which book would I want to be adapted first? Well, it definitely would have to be The Temptation of John Haynes because that is the foundation of the SJS Direct universe. That is the foundation of the entire thing, as related to the entire universe. So, and it's one of the stories I believe in the most. So that would be the story I would like to be adapted if I ever were able to get an opportunity to do a film adaptation. That's the one I would love to see done first. And the second one I would love to see done is Spellbound, because I think Spellbound is a very strong story. And I think people would love a story about an African American goth set in the 80s. So those are the two I would like to see done first. And if I could get that chance, I would definitely take it. But I don't know which production. It just depends on the production company. Because when I look at these Netflix productions, they're just really half done, and the production values and the storytelling isn't that great. So it would have to be a really good Prodco for me to make a deal like that for us. But I would love to do that if I ever got that opportunity. And I would love to also, if I ever got that opportunity, make sure that other young black brothers and young black sisters got that opportunity to get work as related to any sort of project like that. Because one of the things I believe in is black empowerment. And if you get an opportunity, you should be looking to try to find ways to give brothers and sisters jobs as related to those types of projects. Like right now on my John Haynes at Death's Door comic, um, I I'm looking to try to find an artist to do maybe a print or two. So I'm still doing research on that. And I would love to have a brother or sister, be able to do a project, a print piece for the Kickstarter, and I would definitely compensate them if I were able to find a quality artist. So that's something that I really want to do. And that segues into a topic that I really wanted to talk about, and that is Black people. We have to really start trusting those who can bring tangibles to us because it's a video that I'm going to be putting on this Sunday. And one of the things that I noticed in the black community is there's a great fear of people who can go out here and produce results. That's something I have observed over the last 20 years. I have been working on the SJS Direct imprint and going out on the street to, share my work with other people is that whenever a black creator goes out here and puts together a finished project, what happens is they run into this resistance from a lot of black folks because a lot of black folks they fear anybody who produces results. And as I stated in the upcoming video, the root of that fear has to do with white supremacy because a lot of black people they fear going out here and supporting a black person who is producing tangible results, and they fear that black person who produces tangible results because they don't see a white person backing them. And when they see that black person standing up on their own, they start to get scared because there's no white person there to make them believe that it's safe. So that is a fear that a lot of black people, I believe, need to really start to try to overcome because if we cannot grow as a race and a collective, if we don't go out here and start working with those who are working towards producing tangible results. So that's one of the things that I really want to really discuss in depth, and I may discuss it in depth today. But it's okay, Forrest, if you want to give fandom questions. I mean, what period does John Haynes take place? Temptation of John Haynes takes place in right now in the modern times. I wrote the story way back in 2005, but I made it where it was basically set in the modern times. It's happening right now, but it's that book is one that I wrote it in 2005, and then I published it in 2011. So the Temptation of John Haynes and the John Haynes series takes place right now. Merry Christmas, UFO Fact and Fiction, Peace and Love, Queen Jet Black. Glad to see you here. I was talking about random topics, and the random topic I was talking about again was Black people being overcoming their fear of working with those who produce tangible results. Because the people who produce results, these are the people, like I said in the upcoming video, these are the people who show us leadership skills. These are the people who show us that they have vision, and they show us that they have courage and faith. And we really need to start supporting those who can go out here and produce tangible results, because those who produce tangible results are leaders, and those who produce tangible results, they can also go out here and teach others what they have learned, and that can help us grow as a people. Now, one of the things that people who produce tangible results, they do is they understand process. And when you have people who produce tangible results, they go out here and they understand, they have worked through the process to get something from concept to finished product, and they know what the benchmarks are as they're working towards their goals. So that's why I believe Black folks really need to start learning how to work with people who can produce tangible results, because people who produce tangible results, these are the kind of people who can help us build. Because a lot of times we don't support the builders in our community, because we look at what they're doing and we're thinking, oh, that's just some hobby he has, or that's just some guy acting what people call white. But that person is working on a project. That person is working towards a goal. They have learned about process. They're going to take their own initiative, and they have the discipline and resolve. And these are people that in our Black community we ignore, we marginalize, and we don't pay attention to. And a lot of times, when we see these Black people, some people start to get scared and they start to run away. And instead of running towards the people who are producing tangible results and have learned process and can go out here and take a project from start to finish, what happens is we start running towards the talkers. And when we run to the talkers, not much gets done. Soul Survivor, he asks, am I in agreement with competing against the big two? I'm not competing with anyone. When I go out here and I produce a product like an ISIS series or an East Team series or a John Haynes series, I'm out to produce the best quality stories that I can produce. So I don't really worry about my competition. It's like what I said in my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace. People who are really competitive, they don't worry about the other guy. They always focus on themselves, and they're always focused on being the very best. So they're not focused on the next man. They are focused on what they want to do. So that's what a guy out here who is about competing is all about. He's about being the very best he can be. Merry Christmas, Gboot2786. I'm glad to see you here. Gboot2786 and I do a live stream on Thursdays. And if you want to subscribe to his channel, you can subscribe to his channel and check out the streams that we do together on Thursday. Glad to see you here, Anthony Chilbot. Glad to see you here. And I'm glad you like many of my pop culture shows and things like that. I'm hoping to get some more reviews up for movies. I've got a month of HBO Max, got a month of Disney Plus. I'm like 2 episodes into Hawkeye. So there may be a Hawkeye review coming sooner rather than later, because I might just watch an episode after I get off this stream. So what genre will I liken the John Haynes saga to for us? Well, the John Haynes saga is African American fantasy, and that's what I do. Specifically, it's African American fantasy. It's more like it's that's what it is. And I do African American fantasy because we don't really get stories in that genre, and we don't get to see strong masculine Black men in that genre. So that's what the John Haynes series is, and that's what the character of John Haynes is he's a supernatural kind of hero, and his saga is sort of supernatural, like your 1984 Ghostbusters or your Buffy the Vampire Slayer. In fact, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and um, Ghostbusters were two inspirations for the temptation of John Haynes. I like the comedy of Ghostbusters, and I like the sharp, witty dialogue of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So that was one of the major influences for me working on the Temptation of John Haynes. And if you want to check out Temptation of John Haynes, um, you can check it out on Amazon right now. You can get it in paperback or Kindle format, and now you can pick it up and check out the character and find out what he's about. Soul Survivor, will there be a second SJS Direct character upcoming in 2022? I I'm still working on the 2022 catalog, and there will be an ISIS book called ISIS Legacy, which deals with ISIS's leg her meeting the descendant of one of the Theta sorority girls. And there's an Easting book, Horror of the Hyena Woman, which was inspired by a Facebook friend, Ezra Berry. Now, Ezra Berry and he consulted me as related to African American fantasy, and he gave me the idea of this hyena woman story. So those are two of the books, and I'm hoping to do some other characters in the future. I mean, I've got a lot of ideas for different stories, but I just haven't had time to write them. I've been working on so many SJS Direct Universe stories because I want to give readers a story every year, but it doesn't really allow me much time to do new stuff like um, the Eternal Night. So I want to do more books like Eternal Night. Like this is a draft copy, but people loved this story. But I would love to do more stories like this with Lilith Graves and introduce new characters. But it takes time to create a new character. It takes a lot of time to build a world. So that's one of the major challenges of writing African American fantasy is trying to go out here and build a world for a new character like a Lilith Graves or a Matilda Crowley. I mean, that's one of the things that really is a major challenge for writing these stories because with certain characters, I have to create a story model and I have to create a platform for that character. And for other characters, I have to just start and build an entirely new world. That was one of the tough things that I had to do with Spinsterella in 2015, and it was even harder to do for Lilith in Eternal Night, and then work her in organically into the world of Matilda, and then have it be early starting before John Haynes. Thank you for the super chat, Soul Survivor. I'm glad you recommend The Temptation of John Haynes. You think it's an excellent read. I really worked hard on that book. I mean, that was one of the really books that I really was starting to get serious on when I first got started writing novels. And I really wanted that book to be the very best it could be. I mean, I tried to get that book in with mainstream publishers, but nobody really wanted it. And I really got a lot of hostile responses because many of the white women in the publishing world did not like the idea of a heterosexual black man being the lead character. And they didn't like the idea of a black man and a black woman being in a paranormal romance genre. They like to dominate that genre and make it all about white folks. But the whole thing is, I wanted to do a story that showed that we could go out here and have our own stories in that genre, and we could be just as entertaining in that genre. Um, Glad to see you here talking Tina 88 from Cincinnati. Merry Christmas from the Bronx. Glad to see you here. Again, this is just a random topic show because it's Christmas Eve and I don't really want to get too heavy into anything. But I will be talking about that topic all throughout the show where I'm talking about us supporting, those people who go out here and are trying to build because a lot of times in the black community, again, we don't really go out here and support those who get results and we run away from those who get results. And when you run away from those who get results, what happens is you wind up undermining your own success because when that person cannot get support from their own community, it makes it harder for them to go out here and move things forward. I mean, when we have people out here and they're out here trying to get stuff done, these are the kind of people we need to be working with. But in the Black community, we oftentimes leave those people behind, and some people do it because they are afraid of a Black person who is out here accomplishing something, and they're afraid that if they're out here doing things, somebody may ask them to do something, and because they're afraid somebody may ask them to do something, they go out here and run away from the guy or the girl who's out here and producing something with tangible results. Now, other people run away from the Black person who is out here producing something and getting tangible results because some people get jealous of that person. Because they get jealous of that person, what they do is they don't want to go out here and help that other person. So they start hating on whatever that person is trying to do, and they start throwing shade at that other person. Now, that's something I don't ever try to do. Whenever I see a brother out here producing stuff like Concrete Comics or the artist Fobbs, who was kind enough to send me a copy of his graphic novel, Becky, I always try to go out here and help out a young brother or a young sister get their work to a larger audience. That's something I've always tried to do, even though I've got my own publishing imprint. I always try to help out another Black creator. And you guys can head over to Fobb's website and get a copy of his graphic novel, Becky, which is a great horror story. And it's one that I definitely recommend you go pick up. It's very well written, and it's very unique and very well done. So I always try to help out other brothers and sisters, and that's something I try to do whether I'm going to a show like the Festival at the Schomburg, or I'm going to any sort of event where they are selling Black products, or whenever I see a brother or a sister's Kickstarter, I always try to help out somebody because I want to see Black creators grow, and I also want to see the genre of Black fantasy and Black science fiction, grow and expand. I have not seen Santa Inc. D Wood 78 Part 2. I mean, I heard it's extremely woke. I hear it's extremely racist. And I hear that it's just a negative thing as related to the holidays. I mean, that's not something I would want to share with my family on the holidays. People being angry, people being mean, people being cynical. It's not a project I would want to even think would be a good idea to greenlight because people want to think about the best as related to Christmas. They want to have some hope for Christmas, but it seems like those leftists and those woke types in Hollywood, all they want to do is be miserable, and that's why nobody buys the products from their companies. Soul Survivor asks the question: if you ever had an opportunity to bring one of your SJS Direct characters to the big screen, who would I consider it? It would definitely be John Haynes, because the John Haynes character is the one that a lot of readers like, and I believe he would get the most appeal to a larger audience. I mean, I would go with him first, and I would definitely go with maybe Matilda Crowley second because she's got a pretty decent following, and maybe I would go with ISIS third. I would go with John Haynes because he sells the strongest out of all the books on the SJS Direct imprint. And right now, we need a strong, masculine, heterosexual Black man in media, and and a lot of young men really gravitate towards John Haynes. John Haynes, a lot of guys, they buy these books for their kids, and the kids really love the character. So I would definitely work towards bringing him to the marketplace first. And that's one of the reasons why I invested in putting together this comic for the Kickstarter, because I wanted to create a product that would be appealing to all ages. And that is something that the John Haynes at Death Store comic is. It's family friendly, it's family accessible. I mean, this is a comic you can feel safe giving to your kids. It's not anything R rated or graphic, and I'm going to be again, when I launch the Kickstarter, it's going to be something that you can afford and be able to give to your family. So there's nothing in that comic that I wouldn't share with my family. So you can feel safe about sharing it with your family. So yeah, that D Wood, that's true. That some successful that they run away because that people will ask what's your excuse for not being successful, and yeah, that's one of the reasons why some people run away from successful Black folks is they get start people start asking critical questions, but the critical question um, that you have to ask is how did this guy do this? And if you ask that guy how he does it, he'll be glad to help you out, and a lot of times, a lot of when you have a successful person, they don't mind sharing the secrets of their success because they want to see you be successful too. Now, Soul Survivor asks the question is, who would be John Haynes' love interest? It would be either Esteem or Death, and it would definitely have to be Esteem because that's laying the foundation for the story. I mean, Death is much more later on in the John Haynes series. She comes after Man Who Rules the World. She comes way after everything. And I haven't started on. I haven't. That's just with the Death Door. We are only at the second part of the Death story arc. I have a third story planned for this Death story arc. So hang on to your hats as related to the Death story arc. I'm not finished with this character. I mean, a conversation with Death introduced the Death character in. At Death's Door further develops the relationship between John and Death. And the third story, which I still have in my imagination, I have not gotten into the keyboard yet, further delves into things. But John's girl has always been Esteem, and it's always worked for some reason. I mean, originally I never planned to put John with Esteem, but when I put them together on the page, they had fantastic chemistry. And ever since then, since they clicked, I've just kept them together. And they've just been one of those great Black couples as related to Black fantasy. So, again, if I started the series, I have to start with Esteem. And I only wish that I was around about 10 or 15 years ago so that I could get actually hire Sally Richardson Whitfield to play Esteem because that was the actress who Esteem is based on, and I would have loved to have seen her perform as Esteem, and that would have been, one of the things that I wanted to ever see be on screen because I always wanted to see her and then see Keith David as Lucifer, and that's one of the two. That's one of the things I've always wanted to see, presented on screen. So the whole Death storyline takes place way after. It takes place after Man Who Rules the World, and if I could get this Kickstarter to be successful, what I would love to do is do a conversation with Death as possibly the next comic, and I would love to again do that as the next comic. I mean, I've done the No Good Deed comic as with Bill Walko, and I did that just to see if my story model would work on screen or in comics, and it worked very nicely in the comic. And when you read at Death's Door, I think you're going to love at Death's Door. I'm glad you see the chemistry between Esteem and John Haynes, Soul Survivor. That's something I whenever I put my fingers to the keyboard, I always notice with those characters, and they just really just work so well together that you just feel that chemistry on the page as related to their story. Now, Esteem will be making an appearance in the upcoming 2023 book, John Haynes Justified, and that one is another one where John Haynes is taking on another god, but that's all I'm going to leave as related to that story. So Justified is the 2023 John Haynes book, but it may not be the only John Haynes book. So right now I'm working on those 2023 books, and that's one of the books I'm working on. And again, I'm also working on other books as related to, in my head, I want to do an ISIS story that involves a mummy because ISIS Legacy ends the second story arc for ISIS. So everything was practically wrapping up as related to the second story arc with Main Event and Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. And Legacy is like the conclusion of the second story arc. So Legacy practically wraps up the second story arc, and things are just getting started with East Team's second story arc. A lot of this comes from things that I learned from Stan Lee, from reading his books, Origins of Marvel Comics, Son of Origins, and reading from great runs like Chris Claremont's run on X-Men or Jim Shooter's run on Avengers. And, and I learned about things from Sid Field's screenplay and Robert McKee's story on how to put together story arcs. So when you right now with John Haynes, I'm in the middle of his first story arc, and the whole thing is I do it where we see the characters transform over the course of maybe 7 to 10 books. So even though you may pick up one book like John Haynes taking care of business, it's only one part of the story arc, and there is a lot more to it. So each story is single and self contained in one volume, but it's a part of a larger story. So, Soul Survivor asks a good question. He says Black Athenia has coloring books for Black youth. Would I be interested in doing an ISIS or an East Team coloring book in the future? Definitely, I would be. I would love to do a coloring book, but the whole thing is the cost. If I could hire an artist at a good page rate, I would definitely and go out here and hire them to do a coloring book. That's something I definitely would love to do, and it's something I would if I could just get the money together and get things going as related to momentum. I would definitely love to do an ISIS or an Easteen coloring book and be able to get those characters out here and be out here in a form that children could enjoy. So that's something I definitely could want to do. Now, you could actually take the East Team No Good Deed comic that's in the back of Blast from the Past and be able to color it if you want, because I wasn't able to afford a colorist at the time. But if you buy East Team Blast from the Past in paperback, you can go out here and color the comic if you want. So that comic is by Bill Walko, is in the back of Blast from the Past. And I wanted to color that comic, but I couldn't get the money together because when I tried to do an Indiegogo, it didn't get funded. But I'd saved enough Patreon and PayPal donations and super chats to, be able to pay Bill to do the art for No Good Deed. And if again, I want to do a coloring book, I would love to do different projects. I mean, I would love to do more types of projects, but that's all based on the support that projects that I do, like Kickstarters and Indiegogos, receive. If I can get a project funded and I can get that type of stuff done, then I can have the money to go out here because I have to go to the artist first and I have to first see if they're available. And then after I see if they're available, I have to be able to see if they would be interested in the project. So that's one of the hurdles that I face when I deal with artists, because a lot of guys like Black Athenia, he's his own artist, but when I go to him, I have to have that money ready to be able to pay him because, Black Athenia, he works hard as related to his art, and he's a very hard. That's true, Soul Survivor. I know some people want to take the pages, but there's no money in it because it's copyrighted material, and nobody knows who he's. I mean, the work that's all mine. So, and if they did go out here and try to, there's not really much money you can make on an Easteen page. So it's on Patreon and it's on Kindle, but that's about it. And the only way you can get it is with Patreon exclusive, or you can get it for Kindle. So that's the only places that have it. That and in the back of Blast from the Past, and that's the only place that it's in. And again, that was only a test comic to show people what I could do as a writer. So that's all I made that project for, was to show what people would get from a comic at SJS Direct. So the other projects I have, like at Death's Door, that's going to be an exclusive comic that will only probably be on Kickstarter. I mean, that's the only place I'll probably put that comic. So there's nobody's going to be able to make money on that comic because I'm going to register that comic with the copyright office when I get it finished. So that's one of the things I plan to do when the book is finished is register it with the copyright office. But no good deed was just a teaser to get people excited for comics at SJS Direct. Now, when it comes to comics, I like doing the traditional comics, but I'm also partial to manga. So I also know that manga is a growing market. I know that manga has a lot of people out here who really enjoy manga. So that's another market I would love to do. And again, that's what I was doing with at Death's Door. I was looking for a great artist like Antonio Balderi. His art style, a lot of people think it's like a great fusion of comic and manga. So I really want to get that both of those audiences. And again, this is a book that you can read. If you've never read a John Haynes book, you're not going to have a problem getting into it with at Death's Door. So with a Death's Door, it's not going to be a problem. You'll be able to walk right in and pick up this book and not really feel overwhelmed by, over a decade of continuity. Because I learned something from Jim Shooter as that every story is an entry point, and you'll be able to enter into this story without ever having to read a new book, and you'll be excited to go pick up other books on the SJS Direct imprint. And that's one of the things I'm trying to rally right now is to try to get more people to pick up SJS Direct books because, again, it's been kind of slow as related to sales. So I'm trying to get more people excited about SJS Direct books because I have a really rich and diverse catalog of great characters, and I really want to share more of those characters with you. And I also want to start creating more new types of characters and more types of stories. I just need to be able to build the momentum to sell what I'm having currently so I can invest in creating new characters and new stories. So that's something I definitely want to do. And I definitely want to do some new characters out here. Again, I've got some great ideas. I mean, I liked working on Eternal Night. It was a very hard book to work on, but it was a book that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed writing this book, even though it was very tough to do because it was a lot of world building. It's the first time I actually had to build an entire world of vampires. I mean, I built little snippets here and there with Bride of Dracula, Night of the Vampires, and Escape from Transylvania as related to that world. But this Eternal Night was a major challenge because Lilith's story was just completely different from Isis's and John Haynes's when they ran into Dracula. The Malice character, he was in the goth scene, and it was a darker world. So I had to do a lot of research on things like Interview with the Vampire and many other horror stories, in addition to my inspiration from Josh Howard, who talked about vampires and spirituality. I mean, that live stream was a major influence on me. And he was a great artist whose work I really admire, and I would love to have worked with him on a project, but he's been really busy with his own stuff. But he was the guy who gave me the influence for Eternal Night, and people, they really loved that vampire novel. But I had to do a lot of research so that everything could flow organically into the SJS Direct universe, and you could get that organic flow from the SJS Direct universe to Matilda Crowley's world, and you could see it all just flow together, and it could just be easy to follow, and it could just be and it could be like, even if you've never read an SJS Direct universe book, it would be just another novel to you. But if you had read the SJS Direct Universe books, you would be like, wow, that's a major surprise. I never expected to see this character pop up in here, or I never expected to see this reference being made as related to parts of the story. So that was another thing that I learned from reading comics. And you guys can get Eternal Night on paperback and Kindle. and people love that book. And you can get your own copy um, right now. So yeah, let's get the likes up, everybody. How many likes do we have? Oh, we have 20 likes. So we got 22 in the room. So we're looking like we're doing pretty good. Just need 2 more likes. So that's some of the things that I'm talking about, because again, it's Christmas time, and I want to do a nice light show because I don't really want to do too much of a heavy show during Christmas time, because we've got so much going on right now as related to a lot of problems in the world, and I don't really want to add to people's struggles out here as related to these pandemics and these mandates and all this other stuff. I'd just rather just do a nice light show tonight, and something that can lift up everybody's spirit. So that's something that I want to do tonight, because live streams should be light and fun and for Christmas time. And I just came out of the David Carroll memorial, and that was one of the things that was really sad to me, because David Carroll, he truly was a major icon on this YouTube platform, and he shaped and revolutionized it. So he's a guy who I again have great respect for, but I wanted to do something a little lighter in tone, because I'm going to probably go and do a real heavier tone as related to probably next week's stream. So Forrest asks, what's the scale of the world? Neighborhood Spider-Man or Avengers level? Well, the SJS Direct Universe is a very small universe. I mean, it's not, we've had in there, they have Avengers level threats like in The Man Who Rules the World. We had God Cassius. But the SJS Direct Universe, while it has some big threats like the Cyber Goddess, or it has, God Cassius, we also have regular, average, everyday stuff going on. So I try to keep the universe where, yes, you have big, epic stuff going on now with him, but I try to keep it small and intimate, where there aren't too many characters, so that you can get to know a lot of people in them. So John Haynes stories in the SJS Direct Universe, a lot of the fights are really big and epic, but the stories, you really get to know the character as a person. And in John Haynes stories, so you get some stories that are like Spider-Man level battles, but in books like A Death Story, you get a bigger or epic battle. I mean, he has had a couple of epic ones. He had the one with God Cassius and Man Who Rules the World, and he's going to have a big one with Thanatos in at Death's Door. But I try to keep a little bit of balance as related to things, because everything cannot be big and epic all the time. So I just make it where some stories are small battles, like the Neighborhood Spider-Man, but then some stories you get these Avengers level threats. So what I do is I don't try to make every story super big, but I try to make it resonate with the reader. Thank you, Turtle Sage. I mean, yeah, I do try to mix it up with books like Eternal Night, and I try to mix it up with novels like The Thetas and stuff like that. I'm glad you really enjoyed Eternal Night. And you say it's my best work. A lot of people keep saying that Eternal Night's my best work, but I never thought it was that great when I was writing it. I mean, it was really a challenge writing that book, but everybody says it's like one of my best books. I mean, they say that The Thetas and Eternal Night are my best books, but I always thought Temptation of John Haynes' Spellbound were two of my better books. So I really liked Eternal. It was like the concept, but I just never thought I executed it the way it should have been done. But I really wanted to make sure that I stayed true to the rules of the vampire lore and the vampire mythology. Thank you, C-Man, for the super chat. Merry Christmas to you. Forrest, I think you're going to enjoy my work on the SJS Direct imprint, because when I do fantasy, I create black characters. Then I put them in many of the comics out here that we used to get with white characters, but I give you those stories that show you black characters, and I show you black culture. Um, that's something I try to do with my work, and that's something that's something I learned from Marvel Comics. Thank you, Turtle Sage. I learned a lot about how to do supernatural stories from watching a lot of Buffy and a lot of Ghostbusters, and watching a lot of different horror movies. So I learned a lot because I watch a lot of these supernatural shows, and that's how I learned how to do this. And I also learned it from reading the Bible and my over 25 years of following the Most High. So I really, again, have a good strong background in this type of material. So that's something that I try to apply to much of my work. Thank you, Soul Survivor. I'm glad you really liked the block. Recurring villains in the SJS Direct universe is something that I definitely like doing because I really want to continue developing the characters, and I like showing you how these characters grow and change. And that's something I like doing in the SJS Direct universe because I don't see villains as jobbers, and that was something I learned from the late Mark Grunwald. Is a villain's development is important, just as much important as the heroes. So with the block, he's going to be coming back. I'm working on a story with the block right now. So this is the block is one of my favorite bad guys because he's a big guy. He's irresistible. He's got these, again, incredible. He's just 7 foot tall, 650-pound guy, and I based him on Biggie Smalls of all people. He was based on Notorious B.I.G. And the whole idea was I wanted to create a villain who was just, a major challenge for John Haynes to overcome, not only physically, but also psychologically. And that was something that I learned again from watching Batman, the animated series about psychology, is that you want your villains to have a motivation for going after the hero, and you want them to have this, in some ways, an obsession with them. And the block has an obsession with him that relates to Black culture, and that is being jealous of a Black man's success and being that crab that's in the barrel that wants to bring another Black man down. That was something that goes over the course of his relationship with John Haynes, and we're going to be developing that a lot more in this upcoming story that I'm currently working on right now. Because in each story with the block, I show you how he's got this real hate for John Haynes and how he really has this deep, deep hatred for him, and how because he hates him, he wants to destroy him. And again, that goes back to that whole crab in a barrel mentality that some Black people have. And that was one of the things that I try to do on the SJS Direct universe. I try to bring all those aspects of Black culture to stories. So that's something that I'm not seeing done in Milestone right now, but something that's I want to do, and it's something I want to do because I want to show all of Black culture to people in my stories. Now, that's something that people be telling me too. They tell me that, I always show a lot of Black culture and a lot of the work that I do, and I show aspects of Black life. And that's something I like doing because I want you to relate to the characters and relate to their stories and relate to the experiences that the characters are having. So a lot of the horror stories, supernatural stories, and fantasy stories I do, I want you to see things from that Black perspective, because a lot of times when people do stories, they just do them and it's just a story, but there's not the character. You don't really see the Black culture in it. So that's something I try to do with a lot of stuff that I'm working on. Again, I'm working on stuff right now for 2023, and again, the block is coming back, and he will be back in 2023. So that's something you guys can look forward to as related to the second John Haynes story. And after I do this one, hopefully I can do the Isis and Eastine stories and maybe work on some other stuff. Oh, Soul Survivor, he reminds you of Bushmaster. Oh, that's interesting to know. I wanted him to be a challenge for John Haynes because the whole thing was he was not only a physical block, he was a mental block, and he was also an emotional block. So I wanted to create a villain that the hero that John had to overcome in multiple ways. And that's one of the things I wanted to do with him being this irresistible force who becomes an immovable object. He was this guy who was a major threat to John, but he was a threat because he had nothing to lose. But John had nothing to lose because he was a follower of the Most High. And that was like a major, two irresistible forces going against each other. And that was one of the fun things about the story of the man with nothing to lose, was putting that story together. And if I could get that project funded, I would definitely make that one into a comic. I would love to make a man with nothing to lose into a comic. But there's a lot of stories with the Block. Block is featured in Man Who Rules the World. That's when his story really starts, is Man Who Rules the World. So if you want to check him out, Soul Survivor, you can pick up Man Who Rules the World, because that's where the Block makes his first appearance, and that's where he winds up setting up the story for Man with Nothing to Lose. So if you want to see where everything started with the Block, you can pick up The Man Who Rules the World, and you can see how the entire feud between John and the Block starts. Now, I wanted his name to have multiple meanings, because I wanted people to see how he was a physical Block, an emotional Block, and how John was having to overcome different aspects of the character. That was one of the things I put into the Block characters. I wanted the wordplay on his name to have multiple meanings. And I wanted that there because, again, it adds some multidimensionality to the character. So that was something that I really liked about when I was creating that character. And I wanted him to, again, be a multiple level threat. And we don't really get to see that much in comics these days, or fantasy, because people don't really develop their villains. They're just guys who just are jobbed out from story to story while the hero overcomes them. But I don't like to do that with my villains. I like to have villains that I build up and then I take to the next story. So I may have it where the hero beats the villain in one story, but I want to bring them back for another story. And the reason why I want to bring them back for another story is because I want to, again, further develop their characters and further develop their stories. So that's one of the things I like doing as a writer, is I want to give you those kind of characters like companies like Marvel and DC give you, those kind of villains. But the whole thing is that a lot of companies don't really build their villains up, and it's a major mistake. But when you build your villains up, what you're doing is you're creating conflicts, and those conflicts are what get the reader to care. That's something that I learned from my years of screenwriting, and it's something I like to share with when I'm doing stories, is getting the readers to really connect and care about these characters. Because if you don't care about the bad guy, you really won't care about the hero. That's something I learned many years ago when I was studying screenwriting, and I try to apply many of those approaches to many of my fantasy stories, along with techniques I picked up from guys like Stan Lee and Jim Shooter. So there's a lot of different techniques that I use when I'm going out here writing the story. I use techniques from comic books. I use techniques from screenwriting. I use techniques from the novel, and I try to put them all together. And it looks looking like it's 1 minute away from Christmas, so we're almost there to Christmas. And with it being Christmas, I am really happy to say that we are in Christmas 2021. Well, it's long couple 11:59, and we're getting closer and closer to Christmas. And I have, and it's getting ready to be, again, it's getting ready to be Christmas in a minute. So it's one of those. What's going on, Killer Side? Glad to see you here. Glad to see you here from Nashville. Thank you for encouraging me. I'll keep doing the live streams. I mean, going to keep doing these kind of shows. And if you guys, again, still want to ask some questions, you guys can ask some questions. My plans for Christmas Day are I'm going to be making Christmas dinner and spending time with my family, D-Wood 78. So that's what I'm going to be doing for Christmas Day, is I'm going to be spending time with my family. So also going to be opening up some Christmas gifts. I picked up a couple of action figures that from Hasbro. Like this X-Force set, which just came in the mail. I'll be opening up this. And I'll be opening up this Excalibur set. So this is what I'm going to be doing on Christmas Day. I am going to be opening both of these up. Wasn't expecting either of these until March, but somehow Hasbro managed to send these out. So I'll be opening up both of these on Christmas Day. And I was just glad to have both of these because I was able to finally start completing some teams in Marvel Legends. Now, that's what I'm going to be doing for Christmas because those are the two gifts I got for myself. Um, oh, I didn't know that, Juwan. I have to wait until it comes to Disney Plus. That's when I'm going to watch Spider-Man. What is it? Far From Home or No Way Home. That's when I'll check it out because I wasn't very happy with Homecoming and I wasn't happy with Far From Home. I mean, it didn't feel like my Spider-Man, and it didn't feel like the Raimi Spider-Man. Raimi Spider-Man feels like the comic. This one feels kind of soyish, and people are saying that it's a very good movie, but the whole thing is that it's um it's not what I call a Spider-Man movie. But I'll give it a chance if it comes to Disney Plus. Um, So it's Christmas Day, and I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Um, Merry Christmas from Newport News Soul Survivor. Thank you for the blessings, and thank you, Killer Side, for coming to the stream. I mean, I know that Christmas is very busy for everybody, and I'm glad everybody came out to tonight's stream. So I'm glad you're all here, and I'm glad I can share my holiday with you. Um, so I'm really glad about that. But I'm gonna check out that Spider-Man movie because I got Disney Plus for free until January 15th. And I heard one of my favorite Batmans is coming to what is it? HBO Max. I think it was The Fury of the Dragon is coming on January 1st, so I can't wait to see that one. Um, I collect action figures. It's a hobby for me, and it's also a business in some ways because sometimes I do flip a couple when I'm D-Wood 78. So um, it doesn't really cost that much to collect them. I mean, it's not that much if you want to do it. I mean, it just takes time to build over time. I mean, if you have $20 or $25, you could buy one a month, and it wouldn't really hurt you too bad. It's buying a lot of them at once that can hurt you. I'm glad I could help you, Morrow, break out of the simp paradigm. That a lot of people buy my book, Stop Simping, and they broke out of that simp paradigm. So I'm glad I was able to help you do that. I'm glad my book was able to help you do that. Yeah, Stop Simping has transformed a lot of lives, and it's I believe it's going to help a lot more men out there. So that's why I put one of my nonfiction books up for free this weekend on Amazon. Misadventures of Captain Savum. You can get that book on Amazon today for free, along with two ISIS series books, All That Glitters and ISIS The Main Event. You can get both of those books on Kindle today. And Misadventures of Captain Savum is available, I believe, in a couple of hours. It should be available on Kindle for free. You'll be able to get I didn't hear about that one, D Wood, but I will probably be reporting on that one soon. But I didn't hear about this black woman killed by a white man, but that sadly happens because a lot of black women want to divest, they want to swirl, and they think that the white man is going to be better than the black man. But a lot of times, the white man is not as good as this black as they think he is. And again, online dating. Again, I warned people about this in Stop Simping in cyberspace. I warn people about going to sites like Bumble because there's nothing but guys at the bottom of the barrel on those platforms. So I warn people about this as related to meeting guys online because there are no quality men online. Quality men, they're out here and they'll meet you face to face. But poor quality men, they go online because they lack social skills and discipline. So you can learn more about that and Stop Simping in cyberspace. And I'm going to definitely talk about it soon. So if you send me a link to the article, D Wood, I'll check it out. And I'll go into it later on this week. It'll be one of my videos that I put on the schedule as related to things. But this is what happens when you hashtag divest and you invest in online dating. you wind up dealing with a bottom shelf Brad, and the bottom shelf Brad winds up taking you out. That's what happens as related to a lot of these divestors, and as they're divesting, they wind up losing everything as related to everything because they're thinking they're dealing with quality men, but they're dealing with beta males, and these beta males, excuse me, all they're looking for is a fetish, and once they get their fetish, they don't really know how to have relationships with women. So that's where these women wind up with serious problems. So that is one of the problems that the swirlers or the divestors have as related to things, and that's what really messes them up when they get into the dating scene. So yeah, Gbu2786 has a great channel killer side, and it's one of the best channels I've seen so far. And what I like about Gbu's channel is, again, he presents topics in an intelligent manner. And when guys like me and Mr. Superboy or guys like Judge Joe Brown go on the show, you get to see a discourse between intelligent black men, and you get to see black men having a discussion in an intelligent manner. That's not something you see on many YouTube platforms because all you see is back and forth and arguing. But when you go over here, you see black men who can go out here and have a discussion, and it's basically like a show like Nightline or one of the other shows out here, like when it was on the McLaughlin Group. I mean, that's the type of show he has put together, and it's just fantastic to be a part of. Thank you, South Memphis, for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it. If you guys want to donate to the super chat, you can do so. But if you want to donate to the Cash App, you can also donate to the Cash App as well. That helps me, again, be able to stay on the air, and it also helps me be able to put together comics like John Haynes at Death's Door and books on the SJS Direct imprint. So that's all part, again, of the platform, and it's all your support that helps me stay on the air and continue to produce quality content. That's one of the things that incentivize me to go out here and do videos, along with things like the videos you guys come out here and request. So that's one of the things I like doing on YouTube. Again, is the request videos. I really love doing those, and there's some that I want to redo, like the one about the women dressing modestly. I want to redo that one all over again because I messed that one up, and I'm sorry about that. But I want to do that one over, and I may do that one over this week. I definitely want to do that one about the divester because that's a part of the man crisis. And people, they send me a lot of videos about the man crisis. I mean, people, they would send me, like I was on Instagram, and I'm going to send a link to my Instagram so that you guys can check it out. And on my Instagram, the guy sent me a clip of a guy who he said, "Is this a man in crisis?" And the guy was one guy getting upset, and he hit the hood of a guy's truck. And so this is my Instagram. So you guys can check out the Instagram and can sub to the Instagram. I don't really post much there, but book promotions and stuff like that. But you can still sub to it. Sometimes I post haircut pictures. But when I'm on the Instagram, but the whole thing is that the Instagram is, if you guys, so you guys can find me there. But yeah, Judge Joe Brown, he is no nonsense raw, and he's really hard. So I've been on Judge Joe Brown's show a couple of times, and if you guys want to check out those shows, I'll show you to them. This is video. Let me go over to the content and videos because I was on the show in 2019 twice. Actually, it was three times. So I was on his show three times. So I will gladly show you the shows that I was on. I mean, because Joe Brown had been watching a lot of my videos regularly, so you can check out my appearance on his show. So this is one of them. Now hold on, it didn't go through. That there's a link to one. Let me go and get the other one. So I appeared there three times. I was like, so I've been on his show three times. So it was March 4th. So I know it's twice. It was twice. I did a promotion for it. It wasn't 3 times. It was 2 times, but I was on there twice. So I was on the show twice, and I put a link to both of the shows so you guys can check them out. Glad you think that John Haynes is colder than James Bond, Brian. How many John Haynes series books have you read? Because I'm getting because a lot of people they like John Haynes for some reason they like him and their kids love him. And that's why again I'm doing the Death Store comic because I really want to produce a quality product so you guys can really see this character. Because I originally wanted to do it as a comic, but with a conversation with Death, but I just didn't have. I was just testing the market out, and when I tested it out, I found out people really liked that a conversation with Death, and then from there, it just has been. John Haynes has really exploded over the last couple of years. I mean, he had been around with Temptation of John Haynes and Man Who Rules the World, but it's like Conversation with Death was the book where he just took off. So a lot of people like him, especially a lot of kids like him. So I'm eager to get more John Haynes stuff out there. I'm eager to share more John Haynes stuff with you guys out here. So he would tell me in Japan, a 60-year-old man set fire to a building, over 20 people. He had influenced the man who had did it. Oh man, that's really reminds me of Happy Land here in the Bronx. And back in 1990, when I was in high school, there was an event called the Happy Land Social Club Fire, and this guy he got kicked out the club. And because he got kicked out the club because his girlfriend left him, he bought $1 worth of gas and he set fire to the Happy Land Social Club, and it killed 87 people. And that's what this 60-year-old man really sounds like to me. Another psycho simp, another beta male, and just like the guy at the Kyoto Animation, whenever they can't get their way and whenever life doesn't work their way, what they do is they want to destroy the lives of others. And sadly, what we see with a lot of these beta males is that they go out here and they copycat each other, and that's what they do. I mean, Tim Duncan asks, what is simping? Well, simping is when a guy goes out here and he's really submissive to women, and he goes out here and puts them on a pedestal without ever asking what they bring to the table. So that's what a simp is. And if you want to learn more about, your simps, you can pick up my book, Stop Simping, on Amazon, and it'll go in depth and explain everything about what a simp is. So you can pick up Stop Simping on Amazon in paperback and Kindle format, and it will explain it all to you. Well, Mike Williams wanted to give John Haynes a little bit of a James Bond feel, and he was the guy who inspired me to create the John Haynes series. He said that there wasn't enough black men out here who were masculine and strong, so I decided to do a John Haynes series so that brothers can have a strong masculine black man out here. So if you pick up a book like Temptation of John Haynes, you're going to see a very strong masculine heterosexual black man. And again, Mike wanted to make him a little bit like James Bond. That was one of the influences. And Mike does fantastic work on the art for the covers. And I'm blessed to know Mike and talk to him on Twitter as we're working on these books, because he's one of the guys who helped me really focus on developing the more masculine and more assertive looking image for the John Haynes character. Yeah, there aren't that many. Yeah, Soul Survivor. There aren't that many well-written, multi-dimensional black men out there as related to characters, and there aren't that many black men of character, out here. So that was one of the things I wanted to do with the John Haynes character, was give people that kind of man out there, because we need to see more black men like this, and not to see these what they call soft, emasculated milquetoast characters that have been a part of most American media. I mean, most American media, they give us these soft milk toast, buttermilk biscuit black men, or they give us these effeminized black men. And that's not something a black boy wants to look up to. When black men see themselves in media these days, it's like mainstream media. They're always in the background of another character. And when I went out here with John Haynes, I wanted to do a character who was out here and was at the forefront and being in a leadership role. Because oftentimes we got to see the white guy be the leader, but with John Haynes, I wanted to show the black man being the leader and showing us as capable of going out here and taking care of business like he does in the book, Taking Care of Business, and being capable of being a strong leader. So that's something I wanted to do with the character as related to things. And again, Mike was a major influence on me with his Deke Sledge strip, which you guys can check out. I mean, he creates some of the greatest heroes with the Deke Sledge character. This Private Eye. I mean, Mike does a great job on this comic, and I want you to check out Deke Sledge because it's a really well done comic. So, very well done comic by Mike Williams, the cover artist for John Haynes. And again, I like seeing other black artists get their work out there. So that's one of the things I try to do with many of my projects. And much of my promotion is I try to promote other artists and other stuff because I want people to see a richer and more diverse world that's related to black stories. And oh, D, what they're making them? Yeah, I might check that Matrix movie out tomorrow. If I'm not watching Hawkeye, I might check out that Matrix movie and see how bad it is. I mean, it must be really bad if everybody's roasting it. But I only watched the first Matrix, and I was done after that because I heard the sequels weren't that great. But I'm gonna check this Matrix movie out and see what's going on with this Matrix. So. Um, Again, I wanted to do a holiday stream and hang out with you guys. I also am trying to rally again to get the sales up on these on SJS Direct books. Again, lots of positive black fiction. I want to see it get more into the hands of readers. And if you guys head over to Amazon, that would really be helpful in helping me continue to build the momentum. I want to keep this momentum going on the SJS Direct imprint and the SJS Direct books. But I mean, I was disappointed by Wonder Woman 84, and I I I was happy with King Richard. I really loved King Richard. Very well done movie. One of the best portrayals of a black man I have seen in years. I mean, that was worth the price of HBO Max. And we're gonna see what happens with I don't know with this Matrix. I might take a look at it. I might take a look at something else. I mean, I have Disney Plus and HBO Max for a month, so I want to, get my money's worth. Um, I did see Green Lantern on Netflix before that subscription ended. It was like I'm gonna do a whole video review on Green Lantern because I can't talk about it in the live stream. It wouldn't be enough time for me to really go in depth with it. But Green Lantern, it was a movie that had poor execution, and that's all I'll say for Green Lantern. So. I really want to wish everybody a happy holiday, a Merry Christmas. So I'm going to get ready to wrap up tonight's stream because it's Saturday and I have to get ready for making Christmas dinner for my family. So I want to thank everybody for coming out to tonight's stream. And Brian, I'm not really familiar with Sophia Stewart. I don't know who she is. So I think I know who she is. She's the woman who wrote The Matrix. Um, so I want to thank everybody for coming out to tonight's stream. And hopefully I'll have a topic for next week's stream. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And I'm hoping you have a great Christmas day.